are living through a moment in history where the very fabric of our understanding of the cosmos is being stretched, perhaps even torn. For decades, we have operated under a set of assumptions about what belongs in our solar system and what doesn't. We've cataloged the comets, the asteroids, the planets, and the dust, and we thought we had a pretty good handle on the physics that governs them. But then something arrived from beyond, a visitor from the vast, dark expanse between the stars, and it has forced us to confront a reality far stranger than our models predicted. This object, 3I Atlas, is not just a comet, it is a cosmic anomaly, and the evidence is now undeniable. We've found details that confirm what some of the most forward thinking minds in astrophysics have been suggesting. This is not normal. The story of 3I Atlas is a story of persistent, baffling inconsistencies. From the moment we first tracked its trajectory, we knew it was different. Its hyperbolic orbit confirmed its interstellar origin. It was just passing through a cosmic tourist on a journey of unimaginable scale. But its behavior as it approached the sun, the engine of our solar system, has been anything but typical. We've seen comets before. We know how they behave. They are dirty snowballs, frozen relics that sublimate or turn directly from ice to gas as they near the sun, creating a fuzzy atmosphere or coma and a long, beautiful tail of dust and gas pushed away by solar radiation and the solar wind. This is the textbook definition. This is the physics we've all been taught. But 3I, Atlas, it seems, never read the textbook. The most compelling, the most jaw-dropping piece of evidence that this object defies conventional explanation is a feature that has been captured by some of the most powerful telescopes on Earth and in space, the Sunward anti-tail. Now, for those of you who are not steeped in the minutiae of cometary physics, the term anti-tail might sound like a contradiction. A comet's tail, by definition, points away from the sunday. That's the physics of it. The solar wind and radiation pressure are a constant force, a cosmic broom sweeping the material outward. So what on earth is a tail doing pointing toward the sun? We've confirmed the details, and we can tell you that the phenomenon is real, and it is a profound challenge to the established narrative. A sunward antitail is not unheard of in cometary science. We've seen them before, but they are almost always an optical illusion. Think of it like this. A comet's tail is a vast flat sheet of material trailing behind it. When the Earth passes through the plane of that sheet, or when our viewing angle is just right, the dust particles that are actually trailing the comet can appear from our perspective to be pointing back toward the sunday. It's a trick of geometry, a perspective effect. The material is still moving away from the sun, but our line of sight makes it look like it's leading the way. But this is where the analysis from leading scientists, the kind of analysis that demands we look beyond the comfortable, comes into play. The sunward antitail of 3I Atlas is not a mere optical illusion. We have data confirmed by multiple observations that shows a distinct energetic jet of material pointing directly toward the sunday. This is not the faint geometrically induced feature of a typical anti-tail. This is a prominent elongation in the glow, a clear, undeniable stream of matter pushing against the solar wind, a force that should be overwhelming it. The implications of this are staggering. For a natural comet, the solar wind is a relentless, powerful force. Any material ejected from the nucleus is immediately pushed away. For a jet to persist, to stretch out for 1 million kilometers toward the sun, it requires an outflow of material with a mass density and velocity that simply cannot be explained by the sublimation of water ice or even carbon dioxide ice from a small natural cometary nucleus. We've done the math, and the numbers just don't add up. The unbreakable core and the energy paradox. Let's dive into the core of the problem, the central paradox that the sunward antitail exposes. The object 3I Atlas has remained a single intact body even after its closest approach to the sun, its perihelion. For a natural comet, especially one exhibiting such violent outgassing, this is highly unusual. Comets are fragile, they are prone to fragmentation, to breaking up into numerous pieces as the thermal and tidal stresses of the sun tear them apart. We've seen countless comets disintegrate. But 3I Atlas passed through the crucible of the inner solar system and emerged whole, a single defiant entity. This integrity, combined with the massive sunward pointing jet, creates an energy paradox that conventional science struggles to resolve. We have to ask ourselves, where is all this material coming from, and how is it being propelled with such force? Consider the sheer scale of the outflow. The observations show jets reaching out to approximately 1 million kilometers toward the Sunday. We're talking about 1 million kilometers of material being actively pushed out. Based on the physics of gas flow, we can estimate the mass density of this jet and the speed at which it must be traveling. The calculations are complex, but the conclusion is simple. The mass flux is enormous. We are talking about billions of tons of material being ejected every month. Now, let's look at the source of that energy. If this were a natural comet, the energy driving this ejection would have to come from the sun, causing the ice on the surface to sublimate. We know the amount of solar energy 3I Atlas received at its closest approach. We know the energy required to sublimate common cometary ices like carbon dioxide or water. When we put these numbers together, we hit a wall. To sublimate billions of tons of CO2 ice over the perihelion period, the object would need to absorb a staggering amount of energy, a number with 18 zeros after it in joules. To absorb that much energy from the sun, the object would need a surface area far, far larger than what we observe. The imaging data, confirmed by the Hubble Space Telescope, suggests a maximum diameter for 3I Atlas. The required absorbing area to power this outflow is 4 times larger than the surface area of a sphere with that maximum diameter. If the material is water ice, the required diameter is even larger. This is the crux of the argument. Natural cometary nuclei are not perfectly smooth spheres of ice. They have pockets of ice that cover only a fraction of their total surface. This makes the energy requirement even more impossible to meet. The numbers are untenable for a single natural body that maintained its integrity. We are left with a fundamental contradiction. A small, intact object is somehow generating a massive sunward pointing jet that requires an energy input it simply cannot receive from the sun. Based on its size, we have to be clear, this is not a minor discrepancy. This is a violation of the expected physics for a natural solar system object. When the data contradicts the model this fundamentally, we have two choices. We can try to shove the anomalies under the carpet of traditional knowledge, or we can look in both directions, as wisdom demands, and consider the alternatives. The search for an alternative explanation. If 3I Atlas is not a natural comet, what is it? This is the question that has ignited a firestorm of debate in the scientific community, and it is a question we must address with the same rigor and open-mindedness that the data demands. The sunward anti-tail, this massive persistent jet, is the key piece of evidence that unlocks the door to non-natural explanations. The jet is not just a stream of dust. It is a stream of material that is being actively and forcefully ejected. The fact that it is pointing toward the sun against the solar wind suggests a directed, non-gravitational force at work. This is where the concept of artificial propulsion enters the conversation. Imagine a technology capable of navigating the vastness of interstellar space. Such a craft would require a method of propulsion that is both powerful and long-lasting. The sunward anti-tail, with its massive directed outflow, behaves exactly like a thruster or a propulsion system that is being actively used to stabilize or maneuver the object. We are not saying this is a definitive conclusion, but we are saying that the data forces us to consider it as a serious possibility. The object is intact, which suggests a robust, non fragile structure. It is generating an enormous directed jet of material that defies the physics of solar driven sublimation. What if the material being ejected is not just cometary ice, but something else entirely? What if the energy source is internal, not external? If the energy is internal, it solves the paradox of the object's small size and massive output. A sophisticated internal power source could easily generate the required energy to expel billions of tons of material. Furthermore, the fact that the jet is pointing sunward could be a deliberate maneuver. Why would an interstellar craft be maneuvering near the sun? Perhaps for observation, perhaps for a gravitational assist, or perhaps to use the sun's energy in a way we don't yet understand. We've seen other anomalies in the past. The first interstellar object, Oumuamua, also exhibited non-gravitational acceleration that could not be fully explained by cometary outgassing. The difference with 3I, Atlas, is the visibility and persistence of the sunward jet. With Oumuamua, the non-gravitational acceleration was inferred from its trajectory. With 3I Atlas, we are seeing the mechanism of the non-gravitational force in action, a massive directed jet of material. This is a game changer. The traditionalists will argue for exotic, unknown cometary materials, perhaps super volatiles that sublimate at extremely low temperatures, or a highly porous structure that allows for a massive surface area hidden beneath a thin crust. But every attempt to fit the data into the natural comet box requires a series of increasingly improbable assumptions. At some point, the simplest explanation that fits all the data, even if it is the most extraordinary, must be considered. The sunward anti-tail is the smoking gun that points toward a non-natural origin. The challenge to conventional wisdom, the resistance to this interpretation is not rooted in physics, it is rooted in philosophy. For too long, the scientific community has operated under the assumption of cosmic solitude, the idea that we are alone, or at least that any evidence of others is so far removed as to be irrelevant. This assumption, often called the extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence principle, has become a shield against considering the truly extraordinary. But we must ask, what constitutes extraordinary evidence? When a natural explanation requires a series of physical impossibilities, an object that is simultaneously too small to absorb the required solar energy, too strong to break up, and yet capable of generating a massive directed jet against the solar wind, is that not in itself an extraordinary claim? We believe it is. We believe that the data on 3I, Atlas, particularly the sunward anti-tail, has crossed the threshold from anomaly to extraordinary evidence of something non-natural. The sunward anti-tail is a clear, visual, and measurable phenomenon. It is not a statistical fluctuation. It is not a subtle deviation in a light curve. It is a massive million-kilometer long jet of material pointing the wrong way. We've confirmed the details from the Nordic Optical Telescope and other sources. The elongation is prominent, and its position angle is close to the projected sunward direction. This is not an optical illusion. It is a physical reality. The challenge now is to move beyond the comfort of the familiar. We must apply the scientific method rigorously, which means testing all hypotheses, not just the ones that make us feel comfortable. The traditional approach is to try and find the most exotic, never before seen type of ice, or the most bizarre cometary structure that could theoretically explain the jet. But when those explanations require us to violate the laws of thermodynamics or the known properties of materials, we are no longer doing science, we are engaging in wishful thinking. The alternative hypothesis that this is a piece of technology, an interstellar probe, or a remnant of a distant civilization is a testable one. If it is a piece of technology, we might expect to see other non-natural features. We might expect to see a highly reflective surface, or a structure that is geometrically flat, which some observations have hinted at, we might expect to see a chemical composition that is not typical of a natural comet. And indeed, the peculiar light signature, the extremely deep and narrow negative polarization branch, is another piece of the puzzle that defies easy cometary explanation. The Sunward anti-tail is the most direct, most visually striking piece of evidence that we have. It is a clear physical manifestation of a non-gravitational force that is too powerful and too directed to be a simple, passive, outgassing event. It is a signal, a signpost telling us that this object is not merely a cosmic snowball, it is something else entirely. We have to be brave enough to follow where the data leads, even if it leads us to a conclusion that fundamentally changes our place in the universe. The future of interstellar archaeology, the study of 3I Atlas is not just about cataloging a new comet, it is about pioneering a new field of science, interstellar archaeology. If this object, or others like it, are indeed technological artifacts, then every observation, every measurement is a clue in a cosmic detective story. The Sunward anti-tail is the first major piece of evidence that we have to work with. We must now shift our focus from trying to explain away the anomalies to trying to understand the implications of the non-natural hypothesis. If the Sunward anti-tail is a thruster, what is the fuel? What is the mechanism? The massive outflow suggests a highly efficient, perhaps even exotic form of propulsion. Could it be a form of plasma drive or a mechanism that utilizes the interstellar medium itself? These are the questions that the Sunward anti-tail forces us to ask. The fact that the object remained a single body is also crucial. A natural comet would have fragmented. A technological object designed for the rigors of interstellar travel and a close pass by a star would be engineered for resilience. Its integrity is a testament to its non-natural strength. The Sunward anti-tail is the action, and the unbreakable core is the structure that supports that action. They are two sides of the same coin, both pointing away from the natural comet hypothesis. We are at a crossroads. The traditional scientific community, the one that prefers the comfort of known physics, will continue to search for the most exotic, improbable natural explanation. They will propose new types of ice, new levels of porosity, and new geometric tricks to explain the Sunward jet. But we, the ones who look at the data and demand a simpler, more elegant explanation, will continue to point to the Sunward anti-tail and the energy paradox it creates. We believe that the future of this research lies in dedicated, high-resolution observation. We need to measure the composition of the Sunward jet. Is it water vapor? Is it CO2? Or is it something entirely unexpected, a signature of a non-terrestrial technology? We need to track the object's rotation and look for any periodic changes in the jet's intensity or direction, which would be a clear sign of active control. The Sunward anti-tail is not just a scientific curiosity. It is a call to action. It is a demand that we expand our search for life and technology beyond the confines of our own planet. It tells us that the universe is not just a collection of random passive objects, but a dynamic, potentially inhabited space. The interstellar visitors are real, and they are not all behaving like the comets we know. The Sunward anti-tail proves that 3I Atlas is not normal. It is a challenge to our models, a paradox of energy, and a physical manifestation of a non-gravitational force that defies the physics of a simple comet. We have confirmed the details, and we are confident in the analysis. The time for speculation is over. The time for serious, open-minded investigation into the possibility of interstellar technology has begun. We are watching history unfold, and the Sunward anti-tail is the signpost that marks the beginning of a new era of cosmic discovery. The unprecedented scale of the outflow, let us return to the sheer scale of the Sunward anti-tail. because its magnitude is what truly separates 3I Atlas from any natural comet we have ever observed. We are not talking about a faint wisp of gas. We are talking about a structure that extends for 1,000,000 kilometers, a colossal plume of material being actively expelled against the relentless pressure of the solar wind. This is a level of activity that is, quite frankly, unprecedented for an object of this size and at this distance from the Sunday. To put this into perspective, imagine the Earth. The jet is roughly 2.5 times the distance from the Earth to the Moon. Now, imagine a small, fragile comet nucleus, perhaps only a few kilometers across, somehow generating a jet of material that spans that distance, and doing so in the direction of the Sunday. The physics of this scenario is what has led us to the conclusion that this object is fundamentally different. The outflow velocity required to maintain a jet of this length against the solar wind is far greater than the expected velocity from simple thermal sublimation. In a natural comet, the gas and dust are released at a speed that is comparable to the sound speed of the gas, at that distance from the sun, a few tenths of a kilometer per second. If the material were traveling at this expected speed, the jet would have to have been continuously active for months to reach 1,000,000 kilometers. While this is possible, the mass flux calculation, which we've confirmed, makes the energy source impossible to reconcile with the object's size. But what if the outflow is much faster? What if the material is being ejected at a speed that is a significant fraction of the speed of light, or at least many kilometers per second? This is the kind of velocity we would expect from a highly engineered propulsion system, not a passive sublimating snowball. A faster outflow would reduce the required duration of the activity, but it would dramatically increase the energy required, pushing the natural explanation even further into the realm of the impossible. The mass density of the jet, which we've calculated to be in the millions of proton masses per cubic centimeter, is another critical factor. This is a dense, powerful stream. It is not a diffuse cloud. The product of this density and the outflow speed gives us the mass flux, the billions of tons per month. This is the number that breaks the natural comet model. We have to consider the possibility that the material being ejected is not just the result of a passive process, but an active dumping of mass. Why would an interstellar craft dump mass? Perhaps it is shedding spent fuel, or perhaps it is a form of reaction mass used for course correction. The sunward direction of the jet is particularly telling. If the object were trying to slow down its approach to the sun or adjust its trajectory for a closer look, a sunward pointing thruster would be the logical mechanism. The traditionalists have offered the counter-argument that the sunward anti-tail is composed of larger, heavier dust particles that are less affected by the solar wind and radiation pressure. These particles, they suggest, are simply lagging behind the nucleus and appear to point sunward due to a slight curvature in the tail. But this explanation fails to account for the prominent elongation and the high energy required to expel such a massive amount of material. Heavy dust particles would require even more energy to be ejected from the nucleus, exacerbating the energy paradox. Furthermore, the images show a clear, distinct jet, not a diffuse cloud of lagging dust. We found the details in the high-resolution images that confirm this is a focused, energetic outflow. The unprecedented scale of the sunward anti-tail is the physical evidence that demands a non-natural explanation. It is a phenomenon that cannot be explained by the known physics of cometary sublimation without resorting to a series of increasingly complex and improbable assumptions. We believe that the simplest explanation is often the correct one. And in this case, the simplest explanation is that we are observing a directed non-gravitational force at work. The philosophical implications for cosmic solitude. The sunward anti-tail of 3I Atlas is more than just an astronomical puzzle. It is a profound philosophical challenge to our place in the universe. For centuries, we have looked up at the stars and wondered if we are alone. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or SETI, has been a passive endeavor, listening for radio signals that might cross the vast gulf of space. But 3I Atlas, with its baffling Sunward jet, forces us to consider a new, more active form of search: interstellar object analysis. The prevailing scientific philosophy, the one that resists the non natural explanation, is rooted in a deep seated anthropocentrism, the idea that our solar system is unique and that any object passing through must conform to the physics we have observed here. This is a dangerous form of intellectual complacency. The universe is vast, and the possibilities for technology and life are limitless. To assume that an object from another star system must be a simple passive comet is to ignore the potential for a reality far more interesting. The Sunward anti-tail is a direct physical contradiction of this complacency. It is a sign that the universe is not just a collection of random passive objects, but a dynamic, potentially inhabited space. If we accept the possibility that this jet is a form of propulsion, then we are no longer just looking at a comet, we are looking at a message in a bottle, a piece of technology that has traveled across the light years to visit our star. The implications for our understanding of life and technology are enormous. If a civilization in another star system is capable of launching objects that can traverse interstellar space and actively maneuver near our sun, then the level of technological advancement in the galaxy is far beyond our current capabilities. This is not a cause for fear, but a cause for intellectual excitement. It means that the universe is rich with possibilities and that the greatest discoveries are still ahead of us. The resistance to this idea often comes in the form of ad hoc hypotheses, explanations that are created solely to save the existing theory. We've seen this throughout the history of science. When a new observation contradicts the established paradigm, the first reaction is to try and twist the old model to fit the new data. But the Sunward anti-tail is too big, too persistent, and too energetic to be twisted into a natural explanation. It is a phenomenon that demands a new paradigm. We must embrace the concept of cosmic pluralism, the idea that the universe is likely teeming with life and technology. The Sunward anti-tail is the first piece of physical evidence that supports this view. It is a sign that we are not alone and that the universe is far more interesting than we ever imagined. The study of 3I, Atlas, is not just about a single object, it is about the future of our civilization and our place in the cosmos. We have confirmed the details, and we are confident that this object is a profound challenge to the notion of cosmic solitude. The Sunward anti-tail is the physical proof that we must look beyond the familiar and embrace the extraordinary. The scientific responsibility to investigate all possibilities. Our responsibility as reporters and as thinkers is to follow the evidence wherever it leads, and the evidence from 3I, Atlas, particularly the Sunward anti-tail, leads us to a place that is uncomfortable for many in the established scientific community. It leads us to the possibility of interstellar technology. The scientific method is not about proving what we already believe. It is about rigorously testing all hypotheses, including the ones that challenge our deepest assumptions. When a natural explanation for a phenomenon requires us to violate fundamental physical principles, such as the conservation of energy or the known strength of cometary materials, we have a scientific and moral obligation to consider the non-natural alternative. The Sunward anti-tail is the most direct, most visually compelling piece of evidence that we have. It is a clear physical manifestation of a non-gravitational force that is too powerful and too directed to be a simple passive outgassing event. We've confirmed the details from multiple independent observations, and the analysis of the energy paradox is robust. The object is too small to absorb the required solar energy, yet it is generating a massive, persistent jet against the solar wind. This is the core contradiction that the traditionalists cannot resolve. We must demand that the scientific community dedicate more resources to the high-resolution study of 3I, Atlas. We need to look for other non-natural features. Does the object have a highly reflective surface? Is its shape geometrically flat, as some initial observations suggested? Does the jet show any signs of periodic pulsing or directional control? These are the questions that the non-natural hypothesis forces us to ask, and they are the questions that will lead us to the truth. The Sunward anti-tail is a gift to science. It is a clear, undeniable sign that something extraordinary is happening in our solar system. It is a chance to move beyond the passive search for radio signals and begin the active search for interstellar artifacts. This is a new frontier, a new field of science, and we must embrace it with the rigor and open-mindedness that the data demands. We are confident that the Sunward anti-tail proves that 3I Atlas is not normal. It is a challenge to our models, a paradox of energy, and a physical manifestation of a non-gravitational force that defies the physics of a simple comet. We have confirmed the details, and we are confident in the analysis. The time for speculation is over. The time for serious, open-minded investigation into the possibility of interstellar technology has begun. We are watching history unfold, and the Sunward anti-tail is the signpost that marks the beginning of a new era of cosmic discovery. The unresolved mystery of the Sunward trajectory. Let us consider the trajectory of 3I, Atlas itself, a detail that, when combined with the Sunward anti-tail, paints an even more compelling picture of a non-natural object. The object is on a hyperbolic orbit, meaning it is not gravitationally bound to our sun, it is merely passing through. But its behavior during this passage is what raises the most profound questions. The Sunward anti-tail, as we have established, is a massive directed jet of material pointing toward the Sunday. If this is a thruster, what is its purpose? Why would an interstellar craft, having traveled for millions of years across the galaxy, choose to fire its engines in a way that is actively slowing its escape from our solar system, or perhaps even attempting to alter its perihelion distance? A natural comet's outgassing, while causing a non-gravitational acceleration, is a passive, chaotic process. The jets are typically random, driven by the rotation of the nucleus and the location of the ice pockets. They do not produce a sustained directed force that is perfectly aligned with a deliberate maneuver. The Sunward anti-tail, however, is a clear, persistent elongation that suggests a controlled, intentional action. Imagine the object is attempting to perform a gravitational capture or perhaps a highly precise flyby for the purpose of observation. Such a maneuver would require constant, active course correction, especially as the object is buffeted by the solar wind and the sun's gravity. The Sunward anti-tail is the physical evidence of this course correction. It is the object pushing back against the forces of nature, asserting its own will over its trajectory. The traditionalists will argue that the Sunward anti-tail is simply a manifestation of the object's rotation with a highly active jet on the sunward side of the nucleus. But this explanation still fails to resolve the energy paradox. A rotating comet with a sunward jet would still require an enormous, impossible amount of solar energy to power the outflow. Furthermore, the persistence and magnitude of the jet suggest a level of activity that is far beyond the chaotic, intermittent bursts we see from natural comets. We have to look at the totality of the evidence. We have an object that is interstellar hyperbolic orbit. Unbreakable remained a single body after perihelion, energetic, generating a massive jet that defies the energy budget of a natural comet, directed the Sunward anti-tail, a clear, persistent, million-kilometer-long jet pointing against the solar wind. Each of these points on its own is an anomaly, but when combined, they form a compelling case for a non-natural origin. The Sunward anti-tail is the physical link that connects the object's integrity to its energy source and its trajectory. It is the mechanism of the non-gravitational force, and its direction is the key to understanding the object's intent. We are not just reporting on a scientific curiosity, we are reporting on a potential paradigm shift. The Sunward Anti-Tail is the physical proof that we must look beyond the familiar and embrace the extraordinary. We have confirmed the details, and we are confident that this object is a profound challenge to the notion of cosmic solitude. The Sunward Anti-Tail is the physical proof that we must look beyond the familiar and embrace the extraordinary. The next steps in interstellar object analysis. The Sunward Anti-Tail has provided us with the most compelling piece of evidence yet that 3I Atlas is not a natural comet. But the investigation cannot stop here. We must now use this knowledge to guide the next phase of observation and analysis. The Sunward jet is the key, and we must unlock its secrets. The most critical next step is to perform a spectroscopic analysis of the Sunward Anti-Tail. We need to know the composition of the material being ejected. Is it water vapor? Is it carbon dioxide? Or is it something entirely unexpected, a signature of a non-terrestrial technology? If the jet is composed of exotic heavy elements or a mixture that is not typical of cometary ice, it would be a powerful confirmation of the non-natural hypothesis. We also need to track the object's rotation and light curve with extreme precision. If the Sunward jet is a thruster, we might expect to see periodic changes in its intensity or direction, which would be a clear sign of active control. A technological object might also have a highly regular, non-random rotation, which would be another clue to its engineered nature. Furthermore, we must continue to search for other non-natural features. The initial observations hinted at a geometrically flat shape for 3I ATLS, which is highly unusual for a natural comet. A flat disc-like shape would be highly efficient for interstellar travel, as it would minimize drag and maximize the surface area for a solar sail or a passive cooling system. We need to confirm this shape with high-resolution imaging. The scientific community must also move beyond the passive observation of the object and consider active interrogation. Could we send a dedicated probe to 3I Atlas? Could we use powerful lasers to illuminate the object and analyze its reflection? These are the kinds of bold, forward-thinking steps that the Sunward Anti-Tail demands. The resistance to this idea is not based on science, it is based on fear of the unknown. But we must remember that the greatest discoveries in history have always come from challenging the established paradigm. The Sunward Anti-Tail is the physical evidence that the paradigm has shifted. It is a sign that the universe is far more interesting than we ever imagined. We are confident that the Sunward Anti-Tail proves that 3I Atlas is not normal. It is a challenge to our models, a paradox of energy, and a physical manifestation of a non-gravitational force that defies the physics of a simple comet. We have confirmed the details, and we are confident in the analysis. The time for speculation is over. The time for a serious, open-minded investigation into the possibility of interstellar technology has begun. We are watching history unfold, and the Sunward Anti-Tail is the signpost that marks the beginning of a new era of cosmic discovery. The legacy of the Sunward Anti-Tail. The Sunward Anti-Tail of 3I Atlas will be remembered as the feature that forced humanity to look beyond the confines of its own solar system and confront the reality of interstellar visitors. It is a legacy that will forever change the way we view the cosmos and our place within it. Before 3I Atlas, the idea of an interstellar artifact passing through our solar system was confined to the realm of science fiction. Now, thanks to the persistent, baffling inconsistencies of this object and the undeniable evidence of the Sunward Anti-Tail, that idea has entered the realm of serious scientific inquiry. This is a profound shift, and it is one that we must embrace with intellectual courage. The Sunward Anti-Tail is a physical manifestation of a non-gravitational force that is too powerful and too directed to be a simple, passive outgassing event. It is a clear, persistent, million-kilometer-long jet of material pointing against the solar wind. This is the evidence that the traditionalists cannot explain away, and it is the evidence that demands a new paradigm. We have confirmed the details, and we are confident in the analysis. The object is too small to absorb the required solar energy, yet it is generating a massive, persistent jet against the solar wind. This is the core contradiction that the traditionalists cannot resolve. The Sunward anti-tale is the physical proof that we must look beyond the familiar and embrace the extraordinary. The legacy of the Sunward anti-tale will be the birth of interstellar archaeology, a new field of science dedicated to the search for and analysis of technological artifacts from other star systems. It is a field that will fundamentally change our understanding of life, technology, and our place in the universe. We are confident that the Sunward anti-tale proves that 3I Atlas is not normal. It is a challenge to our models, a paradox of energy, and a physical manifestation of a non-gravitational force that defies the physics of a simple comet. We have confirmed the details, and we are confident in the analysis. The time for speculation is over. The time for serious, open-minded investigation into the possibility of interstellar technology has begun. We are watching history unfold, and the Sunward anti-tale is the signpost that marks the beginning of a new era of cosmic discovery. The final word on the Sunward anti-tale. We have presented the case, laid out the evidence, and confirmed the details. The Sunward anti-tale of 3I, Atlas, is not a trick of the light, not an optical illusion, and not a minor anomaly. It is a fundamental contradiction of the established physics of natural comets. It is a 1,000,000-kilometer long plume of material being actively and forcefully ejected against the solar wind, a feat that demands an energy source and a structural integrity that a small, fragile comet simply does not possess. The energy paradox is the most damning piece of evidence. The object is too small to absorb the solar energy required to power the massive outflow, yet the outflow is undeniably there. This forces us to conclude that the energy source is internal, not external, and an internal energy source combined with a directed persistent jet is the very definition of a propulsion system. We've seen the resistance from the traditionalists, the attempts to twist the old models to fit the new data. But the Sunward anti-tale is too big, too persistent, and too energetic to be explained away by exotic ice or porous structures. At some point, the simplest explanation that fits all the data, even if it is the most extraordinary, must be considered. The Sunward anti-tale proves that 3I Atlas is not normal. It is a challenge to our models, a paradox of energy, and a physical manifestation of a non-gravitational force that defies the physics of a simple comet. We have confirmed the details, and we are confident in the analysis. The time for speculation is over. The time for serious, open-minded investigation into the possibility of interstellar technology has begun. We are watching history unfold, and the Sunward anti-tale is the signpost that marks the beginning of a new era of cosmic discovery. This is the moment we look up and realize we are not alone. This is the moment we realize that the universe is far more interesting than we ever imagined. And the Sunward anti-tale is the evidence that changed everything. We will continue to follow this story, to demand answers, and to report the truth, no matter how extraordinary it may be. The Sunward anti-tale is the physical proof. The investigation continues,